just as an opening statement, kind of looking backwards at Kansas State last week, said in the press conference after the game, what a game. Great college football game, two teams competing their tails off out there on the field trying to win, neither one flinching, and a great venue, a great environment, sold-out stadium, beautiful day. It's why you play the game. Those are the games that you want to be involved in as a player, as a coach. I thought it was electric. And I thought it was an unbelievable experience. I believe we're playing, I think we have 10 true freshmen that played in that game. When you look at those young guys in that venue, in that environment, I thought it was invaluable for our football team, for us to grow. Nobody likes losing. We certainly went there to win the football game. We played it that way. That was our mindset going into it, and I felt like, when you look back, we certainly had our opportunities. We just couldn't capitalize on them. I thought we played physical. I thought we played with some energy. I thought there were some great individual performances on both sides of the ball, and there were a lot of positives to build on. When we talked about they were the number 1 scoring defense, the number 8 rushing defense, and the number 16 overall defense a week ago, for our offense to put up 451 yards, to have 23 first downs, and for the second week in a row, we had got the ball with a minute to go and needed to drive the length of the field and get points to force overtime. I thought that drive showed an awful lot of character of our football team and the fight and the competitive nature that they have to go. I believe we were on the 9-yard line when the incomplete pass was called with about a minute to go, and to drive the field and to be poised and composed and to execute and do the things they did, I think is a bright sign for the future against a really good defensive football team. Defensively, I thought again there were some great individual efforts. I thought Nick Thomason was all over the field. What he did as a linebacker, the way he recognized run, the way he played the game was fun to watch. It was fun to watch on Saturday, but it was even funner to sit down and watch the film and watch the way he competed. I thought the whole front seven really played a good football game. Dora, Butler, but you can't say enough about Nick and how active he was in that football game and the number of individual stops that he had by himself. I thought there was just an awful lot of positive things to build on, but I thought our defense played with their stinger. They got their stinger back. I mean, they played with confidence. They were running around. I said, that's what we're used to watching for defensive football around here. And after the first game, I think everybody was a little disappointed in the way we played. Very competitive group of young men on that side of the ball, and they just made the determination that we're going back to do what we do, and that's playing with some confidence. The special teams, you're going against one of the better special teams in the country. Last week, I thought our kickoff team stepped up. We're going against a guy that was averaging 47 yards a kickoff. I talked about with him watching the film, I'm sure he was licking his chops, excited to get out there and to get against that kickoff team. But we really challenged them, and I thought they answered the bell. They did a really nice job of covering kickoffs. Outside of really a long punt return, I thought the special teams really did a nice job against one of the better special team units in the country. And all those things are things that we can grow on and build on as a football team. This week we get into conference play. We have an opportunity to come back home. There is no place like home, and when that environment from the very first week, if we can find a way to duplicate that with the red out and our home crowd being here, I know that our players are really excited about having the opportunity to come back and play at home. We're also getting back into a conference game, which every conference game on our schedule is highlighted. Every conference game kind of perks your ears up a little bit more, and we talk an awful lot about it because one of the goals that we have here, we want to win. We want to win games and go to bowl games and do those things, but we want to win a championship. And that's part of being in a conference, and we have an opportunity to play another conference game this week after hopefully learning a little bit about our football team and growing and developing from the first 3 football games. Playing FIU this weekend. I think Coach Turner does a great job. It's pretty obvious that his handprint is starting to get on that program. He's been there for a couple years. He's had an opportunity to recruit some players, and it's certainly a different football team than we went and played 2 years ago when we went and played down there. You look at them, the way they're building it right now, they're building it with defense. They were a top 3 defense in our conference a year ago. They returned 7 starters on the defensive side of the ball. They are very, very athletic, and when you look at our all-conference team, especially on the defensive side of the ball, it's made up a huge part of FIU football players. They have some tremendous talent with what they do. Their defensive line is one of their strengths. On their defensive line, they've got two ends, 11 and 55, that can flat play. They can rush the passer. They can get after you. They're very, very athletic for a front. Their linebackers are very active. They blitz a lot more than a Kansas State did, and they're more active with their linebackers. And I think they have one of the better defensive players in the league. Number 3 is a defensive back. He's their kick returner. He's their punt returner. He's up for Defensive Player of the Year. He's a preseason all-conference player. They have an awful lot of talent on that football team. Their structure is very similar to what we played last week, but they're much more aggressive out of it. It's probably the best way if you were to review their defense, probably very similar from that standpoint. But some great individual players, well coached, play hard, very physical and very athletic, which is what you would expect from a Florida team. Look at them on offense. Steve Shankweiler is their coordinator. Steve and I were together for 8 years. Before I came here, we were together at East Carolina. We were together at South Florida. He was the offensive line coach. He's been a coordinator before. Really good football coach, good fundamental football coach, knows football. Like I said, I've sat in meetings with him for the last 8 years and just have an awful lot of respect for him and the job that he's doing right now. And they've put a really solid offensive football team together. When you look at them, I think they've got a really good quarterback. I recruited him out of high school when I was at South Florida. He's from the Tampa area. Very athletic, can run, very strong arm, can throw it. I think he's really the guy that makes the wheels on the bus go round on the offensive side of the bus. Their offensive line is very athletic, probably the most athletic offensive line we've seen. They're going to run a lot of zone schemes at you, but they are very athletic and can move their feet, and they're very quick up front. They're not a power football team as much as they are athletic. Their running backs are kind of by committee. Same thing, 190-pound players, great feet, great athleticism. Get behind that athletic line and find gaps and find holes and fill it. They've got a tight end that's caught, I think, a pass in 27 consecutive games. He's an all-conference player. Gives them a lot of flexibility to do a lot of different things formations. He'll line up as a tight end, as a wide receiver, as a running back in the backfield, and they do a lot of different things with him, and they're very multiple with what they do with their tight ends. And then they've got a wide receiver. He had 9 catches, 166 yards against Indiana. Number 81, big, athletic, fast. Really a difference maker, and he is their leading receiver. The combination they have of getting that ball out to him with the zone running game, they do a really nice job. Their special teams, again, their defensive back, number 3, is their kick returner, their punt returner. He's an all-conference player. They're averaging 42 yards a punt, and their kicker's back is an all-conference player. So there's a reason they're ranked up there. They're number 1 in defense right now in our conference. They're number 1, I think, giving up 315 yards a game, and I think they're number 20 in the country right now in total defense. Very good football team, very athletic football team. And when you look at who they've played so far this year, they've got they're 2-1. They beat Central Florida at Central Florida in a big rivalry game early in the season. They lost to Indiana, but holy smokes, you watch that game. They take the ball down, they score, they go for 2 to make it 22-all. They get the ball back, the quarterback gets hit, fumbles, Indiana scores. They get the ball back, they drive 90 yards down to the 2-yard line. The quarterback gets hit again. The ball squirts up in the air, and an IU defender takes it and takes it back to the house. Makes the score look very lopsided when really I thought it was a very evenly played game, and that's the same Indiana that just beat Western Kentucky 39-36 this weekend. So it's going to be a great game. It's going to be a great conference game. Every conference game, you roll the ball out and you play the game for a reason, but I like the way that this football team grew up a little bit this week. I like the improvements we made from week 1 to week 2, from week 2 to week 3, from Western Kentucky, and the way that we got better, and we're a work in progress right now. We've just got to keep improving, keep getting some of these young guys experience, and keep growing as a football team. But excited about having the opportunity to play back at home, especially with the Davison Center there in the Ed Zone, the red out, the excitement that goes along with playing at home, not having to get on planes, trains, and automobiles to get someplace to go play, and have the opportunity to play in our own backyard in front of our family, friends, and fans. It's going to be exciting to have the opportunity to play a conference game back home.
What was the biggest difference defensively from Western Kentucky? I know that Western Kentucky's offense is really good.
Yep.
What was the biggest difference for y'all to take that leap you took from Western Kentucky to Kansas State?
I think for our players, I think one, it was just that probably that reminder that you got to go play every play. You got to go play every play. It's hard to get a 59-10 win out of your thoughts, and as much as we talked about it and understand the energy that they were going to play with, first game on the road, I didn't think we played with the energy we needed to. And B, I felt like we probably, as coaches, we added too many wrinkles for that game, and I think our players play best when we let them play fast. When we let them play fast, when they don't have to think and they can just go play the game, then they'll go play the game on their toes and the balls of their feet rather than on their heels. And I felt like we were on our heels a little bit, trying to read and react a little bit too much at Western Kentucky, and we really put them in a position this week where they could just go play football again, where they didn't. We took a lot of the thinking out of it, and I thought they were very focused and very determined. And I thought that Western Kentucky was a great wake-up call and a great challenge for us as a defense, and I liked the way they responded.
And Skip, if you don't mind me asking about Kansas State again, and obviously every game is a learning experience, but in overtime, it seemed like all 4 shots in that third OT were to the end zone. Was that because they were taking away something underneath, or did this Cody, I mean not Cody, but did Driscoll feel like he had to get it all in one crack?
No, a lot of it was what they were doing when they went into, as we started getting down in the red zone, they started bringing more and more pressure. Played a lot more cover 0 in the second half. It was almost like we were able to move the ball in the first half a little bit, but in the second half they got much more aggressive than what they had been. And as the game went on, they got more and more aggressive in that third overtime. They were in a lot of man coverage and coming after the quarterback, and without having putting a tight end in and doing some of that, but we got behind the chains a little bit on first down, and then on second down you're throwing it, and then on the fourth down, I mean, because they were playing everything underneath, the Reed took him to the corner ball, and I thought he laid up a great ball, and it's unfortunate Trent wasn't given an opportunity to go get it.
Coach, the decision to, I guess, accept the penalty to give them another chance where they got the touchdown, and then at the first overtime, was there any discussion about possibly going for 2 in the game there?
No, we didn't talk about going for 2. I feel like it's really hard to go for 2 and put the whole game on one play. When you look at the heart and soul and energy that our football team put out there on the field, I would hate to go out there and say, okay, one play, here it is. Oh, sorry guys, we lost. I want to give both the offense and the defense the opportunity to win it. And going into a second overtime didn't scare me, so to speak. I didn't feel like, we're gassed. We've had a lot of injuries. We're relatively healthy in that football game. I was ready to go again because I felt like eventually we would hold up. So no, I never really had the thought of saying, okay, let's go for 2 because of all those reasons. The reason to take the penalty, if you would have told me they would have thrown the touchdown pass, I wouldn't have taken it and I would have made them kick a field goal. But I also think we went there to win. We didn't go to play it close, and I felt like our best opportunity to try and win was to have them kick a 50-yard field goal with the way that our defense was playing. They had put him in a 3rd and short situation. Had it been a 5-yard penalty or a 10-yard penalty, I would not have accepted it. I was standing right there with Blake Baker, and I was asking the official, 10, 15, I want to get this straight now because this is big. And he said 15-yard personal foul chop block. And I said, well, let's move it back. That made it, I think the ball was on about the 17-yard line. Would have put the ball back to about a 48-yard field goal, I think is what it was. Had we been able to hold them on 3rd down, it would have made it 3rd and 17. I like our chances. You know what I mean? If you tell me it's 3rd and 17, the way our defense was playing, I really liked our chances with that, and with the way they were not having a lot of success throwing the ball and the way they were playing. They were trying to methodically run it. I thought it was the right play. It was a vote of confidence in our defense, and it was a vote for our football team to try and find a way to win a football game.
What's the status of Paul Turner?
We'll find out this week. Paul's got class on Tuesday, so he won't be able to be out there Tuesday. I know he was over early this morning getting treatment and going out and testing it. It's a hamstring. I mean, it's not, you can't measure it. There's nothing, you can't x-ray it. You can't, I mean, it's a soft tissue injury, and we've just got to hope that he can continue to work out some of the soreness in it right now to where he can come back. It's not pulled. It's not a 5-week injury. It's when he's ready to go, when he can kind of get the hamstring to loosen up a little bit where he doesn't feel like it's going to pop. Because once it does that, now we're in a 4 to 6 week window. We haven't got to that point, but we did not play him because of the tightness and the soreness in it, and he just doesn't feel like he can open up and run right now without pulling it. And so we're day to day. We're day to day with it right now.
What about Kirby?
Kirby right now will still be out. Kirby will still be out right now with his shoulder.
Do you have a timetable?
No, I don't. No, it's kind of right now. Should have a little bit better idea. We're still having a lot of different opinions and really trying to get to the bottom of exactly what's causing it and the best way to treat it. As soon as that's diagnosed, then I'll be happy to share.
You talked about K-State blitzing a lot more in the late in the game. How did you think the offensive line responded to it, and talk about the offensive line's play overall?
I thought the offensive line did some really good things. I mean, they did some really good things. We did not have many calls in that game that didn't have options for the quarterbacks. The option to spit it out, to run it, to hand it. There were a lot of choices every play. We did not have many just called runs where you hand it, O-line, you block it. But I thought when the ball was handed off and the reads took us there, I thought they did some good things. I mean, we were much more successful on short yardage than we were the week before. I thought they did some good things against a very strong, powerful defensive front. We're not as fundamental as we need to be, which concerns you going into an athletic defensive line this week with all the movement that they do. But I think the fundamental steps are going to be the keys. But, they're starting to gel and mesh. I thought Mahaffey did a much better job at center this week than he did the week before. I think O'Shea Dugas continues to grow. Josh Robinson, there are flashes and times where really impressive, holding his own, showing what he's capable of doing and doing some really good things. And I thought Jens played well at tackle, and I thought Darryl Brown played very well at tackle. We just got to get more consistent inside with our center and two guards.
Do you think these last 2 losses will affect attendance at all this Saturday?
I hope not. I hope not. This team has played with a lot of heart and energy. We've played 2 games on the road against very good football teams and in great environments. So I certainly hope not. I mean, if you just judge a football team on wins and losses, you can say this team is 1-2. But when you judge this team on their character and their heart and their competitive nature, I think it's a fun team to watch play, and we certainly need everybody to come out and support them to try and create that same environment at home that we had week 1.
What would you say is more surprising to you, the fact that you have 2 losses or the nature in which you lost both those games?
You're 2 plays away from being 3-0. You're 2 plays. I mean, you're 2 plays away from being 3-0. I told this team we're not going to hang our head and mope. I said when you don't put your best foot forward, then you have something to really be upset about. We play our best game. We put our heart, our soul, our energy. We believe and we have confidence and go play it physical the way that we're capable of playing. Then I'll live with the results. It's unfortunate that we're 2 plays away from being 3-0. We all wish we were, but we're not. And we can't put our head in the sand and mope over 2 plays. We've still got 9 games to go, and good Lord, put eyes in front of your head instead of the back so you can see where you're going, not where you've been. And that's what we got to do. We got to take the past and learn from it, but we got to keep looking forward. We got a really good football team coming in here this weekend.
You do anything different since it's a 1:30 kick? I know you're used to the weather, but in terms of the conditions you might play under. Being 1:30 in the afternoon Saturday.
Yeah, no, we played this one at 2. We even talked. I like it better. I mean, it's hard to sit around all day for a 7:00 game. I think as a football team, we left here about 2. We got in there. We ate dinner. We had meetings from 6 to 8. 6 to 8:30. We had a snack, put them to bed, woke them up, fed them, and went to the stadium. It's like let's go play the game. I like that venue much more than you wake them up at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning, you don't play till 7. It's a long time to sit around and stare at the walls waiting for the game to get there. So excited about a 2 o'clock kick, and I think for our fan base to have the opportunity to come in and tailgate and socialize and come to a game, and when the game's over, still have the opportunity to get home at a decent hour. I like the afternoon kick.
I was just referencing maybe 93, 94 degrees. I mean, it's going to be brutal.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to affect either team. Both of us have played in it. I mean, obviously, coming from Florida, they're used to the heat and the humidity, and we certainly had it all during camp, and we practice every day at 4. It's not much difference in the heat from 2 to 4 o'clock, you know what I mean? So I think it may be hot. You're going to have to hydrate. You know, I mean, you may have to play a couple more players than you normally would like to, predicated on the number of plays that you're going to get, because that environment Saturday at 68 degrees was kind of nice. You know, that's one of those ones where you only have a sweat ring under your shoulder pads. You know, the rest of it's dry. Where this will be one where your shoes squeak. You know what I mean? Because you're going to lose some water during the course of the game.
You got some skill guys out or banged up,
Yep.
and you just face one of the best defenses you're going to face all year. But Jeff continues to put up impressive numbers. Just talk about his performance, really.
Jeff has been, I keep saying it, he really has not put a ball in danger in 3 football games. He threw that one deep ball to Paul Turner, which I thought was a great ball against Western Kentucky. The defender made a phenomenal play, but it's a one-on-one jump ball. But when you look at what he's doing, he had 6 throwaways. He had 6 throwaway balls in the game Saturday, which it's not about his percentage and all that. It's very unselfish. It's not there. I know I can't hold it. They got a great pass rush. It's not there. Put it in the 3rd row. Let's punt it away or live to play another down. And I think the job he's doing protecting the ball right now, I think he's thrown that 1 interception. But really, when you go back and look, it's not like he's put a lot of balls in danger. It's not like the defense has got their hand on many balls. And I think that's the experience coming out in him. And I think he sees the field really well. And that's why I keep saying he's doing a really good job of managing the field for managing the game for an offense he's only been in for 6 months. I think he's doing an excellent job. And every game, I think he builds more and more of a relationship with his receivers. It was nice to see Carlos, who's starting to come back. We talked about him in game 1, in game 2 rather, not having the ability to practice and how that has affected him. And he's got some rust on him and was able to come out last week. I think he had 5 catches last week, did a really nice job. The splint on his hand gets smaller and smaller. I mean, the surgery that young man had was extensive. I mean, he had 2 screws put in his hand, and here he is 3 weeks later out there, you know, catching balls and playing. And I think it's a testament to him, to Dr. Graham, who did the surgery up at the Cleveland Clinic, and the brace that he's wearing keeps getting smaller and smaller to where we're almost to the point where we're taping fingers together, just for strength. And when we get to that point, then I really think he's going to have an opportunity to shine and show what he can do. But he'll get better and better and more involved every week.
In practice, did y'all expect him to have the kind of to come out like he did against K-State and have as good of a game as he did?
Yes, I do. I mean, during the week of practice, he played more and more of a role with Paul not being there. Like I said, on Tuesdays he has class, and then on Wednesday and Thursday with his injury, kind of Trent and Carlos have to pick up a little bit of that load all of a sudden than that Paul had. And I think the more work that Carlos gets, the more and more confidence I think not only Jeff gets, but we get in putting him in that opportunity where he's going to make those plays for us, because he is a special player and he's going to become a bigger and bigger part of our offense as we continue to move forward.
Jeff threw the ball is averaging 40 attempts a game through 3. I know you always talk about taking what the defense gives you. Is that something that's going to continue to happen going forward if teams continue to take 10 attempts?
Well, we have to do what we need to do to move the ball. I mean, and when you look at I think in another week or 2, I think we will feel more and more comfortable with O'Shea Dugas and Mahaffey at center and those guys that have been there. You don't move there and I got it in a week. You know, there's different steps, different calls, different reads. And as those guys do it, and it gets second nature, because sometimes you got to do it on the run. I'm not going to say, no, the rest of the year we're throwing it 45 times a game, because there may be some games as our offensive line continues to grow and develop and get better that we may feel like we need to put the ball on the ground a little bit more. Maybe solidify an edge. We've got Marlon Seitz is back this week. You know, now all of a sudden we have 2 fullbacks again. It's been hard to build a game plan around 1 fullback or 1 tight end. And so I think you'll see us have the opportunity to get in some bigger sets, which we haven't been in much to this point.
What would your ideal split be front pass?
Depends upon the opponent. Depends on the opponent and the defense we're playing and what they're trying to do. I think just like in that game, when they go to man coverage and outnumber you in the box and put everybody on the line, you got to throw it more. I think if they're going to sit back and play coverage, then you got to be able to run the ball a little bit more. So I think it's all predicated on what the defense is trying to do, because I say you have to attack a defense. You go into a game plan, you have your game plan, you go out there, they put the ball on the tee. Take a deep breath and say, okay, here we go. All right, what are they in? All right, they're in 4-2. They're rolling the safety down. All right, let's run. We got to attack this. All right, they're sliding their front strong. Okay, we got to get the ball back over weak. Okay, they're rolling the coverage this way. We're going to throw the ball here. You're not going into it going, okay, we're going to throw the ball 42 times, and I'm not a script guy to say we're going to run this, this, and this. We're trying to attack what a defense is doing to us, and sometimes it's going to be in the run and sometimes it's going to be in the pass. But I definitely think a guy like Kenneth Dixon, we're always going to have some form of balance, because we've got to keep a guy like Kenneth Dixon involved in the game, and we've got to keep receivers like Trent and Paul and Carlos involved in the game as well as they're playing.
Bit of a two-part question, but I was reading some of the Kansas State reaction, and they said, I forgot who it was, but that the offensive staff outsmarted Kansas State's defense. What did you think of the game plan going in, and do you think that how it was executed, and do you think that the offense played well enough to win?
It's like a three-parted question, but going to the first one, I do think I've got a lot of confidence in this offensive staff. And when you look at guys that have been around football and you start talking about minds like Tony Peterson, who's been a coordinator for 7 years in the Big Ten, who's coached quarterbacks, who played the game, I think he's got a great mind, and I think he's got a great coordinator mind. Then you look at a guy like Tim Rattay, who's played the number of years that he has and the understanding that he has of offensive football. And then I look at Joe Sloan, that I've been around, who I think has a great young mind. And I look at Robert McFarland, who's been a coordinator, and Jabbar Jalouk. And you put them all in a room and start going, okay, well, Robert McFarland says, well, now, when I was at Iowa State, we did this. And then Tony says, when I was at Minnesota, we did this. And Tim Rattay says, when I was in the NFL, we did this. And it kind of all gets pieced together. And you've got 4 or 5 different minds in how to attack a certain defense. I thought the game plan was brilliant. I thought the game plan that the offensive staff put together was brilliant to attack what they did. I thought we gave our players a chance, and I thought our players executed it. They still have to go out. You can have the greatest plan in the world, but if you can't block it, throw it, catch it, it doesn't matter. And I thought the players had great confidence in the game plan, and they went out and I thought executed it very well. I think we played well enough to win as a football team. When you go into triple overtime and you talk about, it's a one-play difference. The difference in that game was a fumble on the kickoff, a fumble on the 30-yard line, and a punt return that went down to the 8. You change any one of those 3 plays and the outcome of the game is different. So do I feel like we played well enough to win outside of a fumble? Yes, I do think the offense played well enough to win. I think the defense played well enough to win. And I thought the special teams played well enough to win. I thought we went there to win as a football team, and that's what we tried to do. And I do feel like the offensive players did a great job of executing what I thought was a great game plan.
Where would you rank Florida Nationals defense?
As far as the 3 we've played,
Anything, Conference USA, nationally, from what you've seen so far?
I think they're salty. They're really good. They're really good, and they're very similar to the defense that we just played as far as the structure of it all and how they line up and not giving up deep plays and deep balls. But then they're a lot like our defense because they bring a lot of pressure. And I'm sure the second half and what Kansas State did to us is the film that they're watching and predicating everything on and basing it on. Whether or not they're going to get in a lot of man coverage and what they're going to do, I don't know. But our job as coaches is to make sure that we have a plan for whatever they're going to get into and however they're going to attack us. But I think they're really good. I think they're very athletic up front. They're very athletic on the back end, and they give you a lot of structural problems with how aggressive they are. Very similar to our defense in the amount of pressure they bring. But as a Florida team, and you would expect them, very athletic. Kansas State was really big and strong at their defensive tackles. I think the strength of this defensive line is in the 2 defensive ends. I think our tackles are going to have an unbelievable challenge this week.
A guy we haven't talked about much here that's kind of had a coming out this year as well, and Cam McKnight with the absence of Connor Smith.
With-
What has he done in the last year to change his game from a high school running back to a pretty salty inside receiver?
He needed the redshirt year just to get used to playing wide receiver and learning the game out there. But with Connor Smith being out, and Connor Smith hadn't played a snap in the last couple weeks, with him being out, you're asking a redshirt freshman to step in, start, and play 80 plays in this football game. And I think he's made some key catches for us. He made some key catches and played a great role, made some great blocks on the perimeter. I think Cameron McKnight is growing up. He's maturing, and every game I think he gets, not only does he get better and better, but he keeps getting better because he's more and more comfortable and confident and being able to go play fast, which is the term I keep using. But I think Cameron McKnight's done an unbelievable job. And for him to be a redshirt freshman playing the role he is, I think bodes well for the future.
Anybody that's talked to Cam in the past knows that he's a calm guy. There's not a whole lot that rattles him. How important was that Saturday against K-State in that environment?
I thought, even in the Western Kentucky game, which is really the first game that he had a chance to start, play a significant role in a big game, I thought he really stepped up and did well. And then last week, I thought he did, last week at Kansas State, in front of 50-some thousand people and a national television audience. The arena's not too big for him. That environment is not too big for him, and there are some players you don't know how they're going to handle it. Their eyes get big, and they start playing slow, and they're thinking, and they see 27 guys on defense. The game is not too big for him right now, which is a comforting feeling as a redshirt freshman with him going out and being able to do the things that he's doing.
The last time you lost 2 games was last year in a row, and you came back and just blew away UTEP 55-3. I'm not asking you to compare UTEP and FIU, but would it be far-fetched to expect another huge game considering what you did last year in terms of bouncing back of that magnitude?
I think this team is very competitive. They want to be good. I heard Dora talk up here about everybody wants to win and how hard it is to lose. And there was a lot of sad emotions and even tears in that locker room, because when you put that much heart, soul, and energy into something trying to win, it hurts when you don't win. And nobody wants to go through that pain of losing. And that's the thing that drives you, that pushes you, which is why you go to practice, which is why you watch the film and say, what do we got to do to get better? What do we got to do to improve? And hopefully we can continue to grow as a football team. And the great teams learn to have that same attitude even when they win. What do we got to do? Okay, how do we correct these mistakes so we can make sure that that loss doesn't show up? But sometimes losing can be a great motivator, and I think for 2 weeks in a row, it's hard because we've been this close. It's painful because you've been this close, but haven't been able to get over the hump. And so in this game, we're going to play it one play at a time, and when the dust clears and the game's over, we'll see where we are as a football team.
Anything else?